Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are actually in the world. Thank you for tuning in to a brand new edition of Social Confoes. I'm Shamit together with Diego. How are you doing, man?
Doing good. I gotta say, you look bright today. All that energy in the
Yeah,
back end with the drumming to the intro song. Haven't seen you this energetic in a while.
yeah. That means one, I slept well. Two, I'm pumped to do it again. So I think all in all, it's a good thing, right? But I wouldn't say it was my most prepared show ever or anything like that. But I'm just happy and excited to do a brand new social confoes. And actually, just the two of us. Of course, that's gonna come to an end very soon because we will have guests on coming on to new episodes. But yeah, we should definitely do a recap of has gone on in the past week, don't you think?
Yeah, there's been quite some developments. We touched on a few things last week, but obviously things elaborated more. So I think a few things. Like maybe if you look at one thing that's popular, you mentioned I haven't been following it lately. Was the trial between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp? Funny that you mentioned that because the only way I know about it is through Twitch because streamers are actually watching that, reacting to that content.
Oh,
So
really? Oh, really? So that's a thing. So it's
yeah, so
actually
uh, we, we could dive into that in a bit on reaction content and especially how streamers set up. I found it quite intriguing, having found more streamers lately and how they, I guess, interact. It's quite different from YouTube. So it's quite interesting.
is it now? In what sense is it different from YouTube? Because here's my interest. I think one of the things that makes streaming interesting is the engagement levels. Like I feel like where kind of streaming is winning from mainstream television at the moment is that with mainstream television it's like it's all set in stone. Everything is kind of scripted. It's like these are the questions that's going to be asked. These are the answers that are going to be given. Whereas with streaming, first of all, there's a surprise element. There's something that could happen, but also you as a viewer get to interact, and the presenter even responds to those questions, those comments that you make. Is it that kind of thing that you find interesting in Twitch, or is it something else that you find interesting?
So I guess let's put on some context first. So obviously, at least for me, the first thing when you think about Twitch, when you think about streaming, is video games, right? But the most
Yeah,
popular
main,
section,
yeah.
the most popular section is actually the just chatting section, the category, and the just chatting category is basically streamers just literally chatting with their chat, either watching a video, reacting to something, or just in a room or in IRL stream as they go on the streets with a camera on and they literally just live stream what they're doing and interact with their chat.
So this
That
since this is gonna be a segment, gonna do a little dive into because this is gonna be a segment in my book. I quickly want to address this. So back in 2000, I don't think 2015, I started researching traffic like website traffic in Suriname, like which were
yeah,
the most
yeah.
visited websites. Now I do have to put in caution because I used Alexa, and Alexa simply didn't have all the data, but they were collecting data. And well, till this day, Alexa is being used to track data. And in official reports for Hootsuite and We Are Social, like statistics that even I use to get a good grip of what's the social landscape or the online landscape in Suriname, they use Alexa as well.
Just for
So,
clarity, Alexa not referring into Amazon, right? Alexa as
well,
in
Alexa.com, I'm not sure if Amazon bought them as well, but at least they were the tracking website. I think things a lot of things happen, but Alexa.com used to be the ranking site for the world. Like if you wanted to know how's your website been ranking worldwide, but also in your country, you would use Alexa, and then Alexa would give you a global rank. Like your website is the fifth million most visited website over the past 3 months, and then could also get like in Suriname, your website is the 1,000th most visited website in Suriname. I mean, the data wasn't complete, but at least there was data. And in 2016, I think I started doing Alexa like traffic as well, and I was like going through the top 50 websites. I think top 50 or top 100 websites in Suriname. At one point, you could view the top 200 listers website, but at a certain point, it became top 50. You could only see the top 50. So I was going through that list, and of course, there are a lot of adult content sites in that list as well.
yeah.
Um,
So
one
is
of
this public data or is it like
it's
behind a
pub
paywall?
it's public data. It's
Okay.
mostly public data. So what social we are social and Hootsuite did recently, I think like in 2020, they decided to take those adult websites out of those lists from countries because it was very, like they were publishing the list of the 50 most visited websites in the Netherlands, and then there would be like 5 to 10 adult content sites on that list. They were like, and probably they got some feedback from it, so they moved all the adult content websites from the list. So in 2016, I think there was like this website for Suriname, which was called Chatterbait, and I had never heard of Chatterbait. And have
Me
you heard of
neither.
Chatterbait? So
No,
you've
I
heard of
haven't.
okay, so you have heard of chat roulette, right? Which is basically a roulette with people chatting,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then okay, and Chatterbait is basically chat, and turbate. It makes sense. You know what the word is that stands next to it. And this is actually a website where there's a lot of adult. It's basically adult content, but the creators, the streamers, they earn tokens from their streams, and they can award people. So people can pay with tokens, and they have to do a certain thing. And they have like a tip menu, and if you tip a certain thing, they have to do the thing that you tip for. So basically, it's kind of like
Yeah,
this.
so just to bring back that to Twitch, kind of Twitch also has this mechanism built in, like channel
Yeah, it's kind of
points,
gamification.
donating
It's kind of
bytes. Yeah,
gamification. Even TikTok, like I know it's insane that I'm going from an adult website to TikTok, but even TikTok also has these tokens and coins that you can give to creators. YouTube has tokens and coins that well, YouTube actually has real money because they have a subscription style layout where you can actually I have to research a little bit because I'm in a partner program now, and there are these options that I just haven't looked at yet where you can actually have memberships, so paid memberships, and people can pay to have like a little logo next to their name and those kind of things. So it's kind of the Patreon style. I'm a Patreon, I pay every month, and it's kind of being embedded in different layers on different creator platforms. And like on the website Chatterbait, they also have like a lot of people. Of course, some of the people are really like really graphic content, but there are also people that are just chatting, and it's kind of this weird kind of thing where like on Twitch it's kind of more like the even the PG-13 or the but sometimes it's really also like a way to attract viewers to monetize the viewers later on. So it's
yeah,
this kind of weird kind of where you have to decide like am I doing it to get a lot of traction, and do I monetize it through merch or something else? Do I just want to grow my following, that I have a big following, and transfer them also to integrate them with my other socials? Or is it just straight up for the money? I'm streaming to get paid, and this is kind of my day job, and my viewers also know that it's kind of my day job. So I think that's this really weird uh, dynamic that we're in.
so coming back to that on Twitch, so the day job part or the job part. So if you look at the metrics, at least the top earners are like it's a small percentage. Like any other platform, it is a very small percentage. Like most of the viewers go to like one of the top 10. If you see like 1,000, between 1,000 and 10,000 concurrent viewers, you are in the high ranks of Twitch, and that is a big number as well, right? So, and if you look at, kind of draw that parallel back to traditional media, these individuals or these streamers are kind of entertainers to a certain degree, right? So those who've like monetized capital and capitalized on that, it is a main source of income. But from what I've seen, at least a few of them I followed, they started as an expression of self, and that personality kind of drew a certain crowd, and that just grew over time. And many, it took at least 3, 4, 5 years before they actually got into that position. So it's quite interesting because Twitch also takes a big cut of those payments. So they monetize through donations or through other types of merchandise as well. And
Interesting thing. Now that you mention it, since now actually I do want to stream this show back on Twitch as well, and since you're allowing me to go and do it on my channel, I might even do that because I think that's it. It would work. I mean, you use Twitch for gaming. I don't currently use Twitch, so it's an interesting dynamic to see if that works. Like for instance, I we don't stream this on my YouTube because my YouTube is in Dutch. And for you, it's perfect because it's the main thing that pops up when you go to your channel. And to get back to the part that you mentioned, because it's interesting, you say like they can be themselves, and the kind of the channel grows from there. It's often the personality. Like, is it an interesting personality?
yeah,
Do you talk
personality
about
and
something?
actually
Yeah,
the acknowledgement and engagement towards the chat that kind
yeah,
of lets keep people come back.
yeah, yeah.
And you got to develop thick skin to a certain degree.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you don't have to like. Um, on our other podcast on the Lucky D show, we have like some people that it's like I feel like sometimes they come in to vent, like they have want to take something off their chest and they
Yeah.
want to let it know. And in most cases, we pop it on screen. We don't always have time to go into it, but we do pop it on screen to let them know, like, hey, we saw the comment. Whereas some people just come and like they put nasty comments, like complaining all the time. And at a certain point, you're like, wait, but why are you watching this video if you're not satisfied with the content? On the other side,
There are people like that who just tune into streamers channels just to.
yeah. But on the other hand, there are some very valid comments. So if you as a streamer, if you are like neglecting completely what's being said by the viewers and the comments that are coming in, if you completely neglect it, they won't come back for it. But if you actually engage and even if you differ from opinion, go into the topic, they might respond and actually stay. Which brings me to a comment that came in. Raul wants to know what's the topic today. So how would we frame the conversation that we're having today?
So basically, we're having some developments, updates of the week, and how we got into this conversation on Twitch and streaming is basically I explained to Jean-Luc the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial that's going on right now. The way I found out was through stream to Twitch and to other streamers reacting to it. So that's kind of how we rabbit holed into this discussion on how streaming content has evolved over the years and if it's a viable platform to for creators as well. And yeah, is it evenly distributed for opportunity? I don't know, but there's a community for everything. The interesting part is especially the just chatting part being so huge. um, that was quite interesting for me, and it's huge in different, even in the just chatting part there's many different categories within that itself. So like I mentioned, the IRL streams, yeah, the IRL streams. I think last year there was a meta going around that people had bathtub streams. Like I have no idea how that, but every other streamer, even the gaming streamers were mentioning, yeah, maybe we should do a bathtub stream or something. So it's quite interesting. just to the degree that it's still safe for work, right?
So, can we say it would be something like uh, current trends and developments that
I
we are
think
watching
it's
in the
when
online
a
space?
popular streamer does something, they try something very random or hasn't been done on the platform, and they get reactions. The others try to copy it because it's like setting a trend, right? Just to get traction. They're like, oh, they did it. What kind of spin can we give to it? I think that's how you could see it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because from the Depp Heard situation, there is a very interesting thing that happened, which is the whole USD Terra Luna situation. So, can we dive in? Do you feel like we're kind of hitting the bottom of the bear market already, or are we still a couple of months out?
I'm hesitant to say, I make a prediction. I think it's safer to just observe what's happening. So let's state some facts. Um, I think that the last peak, if we lay out the trajectory from the last year, like this year, we had the peak, and I think a few weeks later, you had the first dip, and then in October, November, it spiked up again, and now we're going down again. Uh, I won't necessarily say we're bottoming out yet because it's hard to define when a bear and bull market start because the charts, the statistics that you see is always lagging behind market sentiment, right? People act first, and that gets reflected on the charts, the indexes, the data. So data is always lagging on action. Um, so that's one part I would say that's kind of interesting. Um, Other than that, the Luna Terra situation kind of triggered a huge sell-off, right? The what happened to Luna and Terra, and for the folks listening in, to give you context, what Luna and Terra are. Terra is a I think it's a separate chain, a separate ecosystem, and they introduced a algorithmic stablecoin. So a stablecoin like USDC, USD Tether, the Hypec dollar is kind of a representation of one US dollar in fiat currency. And Terra was an experiment on having this done algorithmically. And so what happened when a huge sell-off happened? This triggered like how do I say this? Mm,
Kind of a hyperinflation, right?
yeah. So basically, one UST, US dollar Terra, is supposed to be pegged to one US dollar, and it's supposed to be backed by assets equivalent to that, just like USDT and USDC are supposedly backed by assets or US dollars in a certain vault. But because there was a huge sudden sell-off, this triggered the algorithm to kind of try to maintain that system because the price dropped below $1. And to try to maintain that, it created extra liquidity of Terra because that's what you exchange for the USD. And so it's like money printed go brr on steroids. So the supply within a few hours like doubled, tripled, quadrupled, and this caused they call it a death spiral, like the price going infinitely down until it converges to zero, and that kind of destroyed the Terra ecosystem and those holding Terra. So people went from millions to just zero in a matter of hours. And that impacted the larger crypto market because Terra had a vault of Bitcoin that they bought of, I think a month ago, like $10 billion of Bitcoin. and they had to insert that to try and stabilize the algorithm, but it didn't work. So there was a huge sell-off of Bitcoin again that caused a huge spike in Bitcoin. So all the markets are correlated to that, kind of go with that. Are you still with us?
So
Yeah.
other examples, like I've seen other examples of stablecoin completely going to zero as well, because this is basically a mechanism, and
Yeah.
so far it's proven that the mechanism doesn't work. They can't keep the peg, um, and that seems to be the flaw with this kind of
So
decentralized model,
so talk,
where it's yeah.
let's talk about the mechanism, which is why last week I was interested in,
Feel free to talk
can
about the mechanism, because I'm going to try to improve my internet connection for a second.
sure. So last week we talked about the high back dollar, like increasing their APR by staking or holding it to 20%, right? And if we look, Anchor, the Anchor protocol was built on Terra, was a way to stake your coins, and they had a very high interest rate on return. And you could see it like that was being heavily subsidized. Instead of using that money to go into marketing, they subsidized, kind of artificially inflated those rates to attract people using the platform to a short degree. So that's kind of how they could support those high interest rates. And over time, those interest rates get less and less and less, and as more users come in, it gets less interesting. So people got liquidated, who held those positions, so their kind of holdings went to zero. So while they were trying to make a relatively quick return on their holdings, it went to zero because it was kind of part of the whole mechanism that imploded on itself. Yeah, so that's one part of it. And people are, at least Twitter, people are kind of looking at this event like, is it going to be a like BitConnect event that happened in 2017, 2018 that people shrug it off? Or is it, going to leave a larger imprint on the larger crypto world? The way I see it, I'm not sure. It's an experiment because I think the founder even did, they want to try and reboot the project. So is it gonna last? I don't think so. Stable coins are tricky. Yeah, they're tricky, for a lack of a better word. Seems Jean-Luc is having some issues in the back end. But going on to this part on stable coins. Oh, he disappeared. While we wait for Jean-Luc, let's check this out for a bit. Yeah, Do Kwon, the founder of Terra Luna. Are you back?
Yeah, I think I'm back. I think this is
Yeah.
much better. I don't know what happened exactly. So the question I wanted to ask: did you own any Luna?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I did not, but just for funsies, I threw like a few dollars as it crashed, just as a.
At what point? At what point in the crash did you buy it? Just
I
just
don't.
to.
I don't even remember, but it's zero now. That's all that matters. It
Okay.
was already down like 99%, and from that 99% down,
So yeah,
it's down 99% again.
yeah. So
So yeah,
yeah.
don't chase cloud. Don't chase. So that was just that was literally a gamble. Like,
It,
did no
yeah, it has
research
been.
whatsoever, just something in there.
It has kind of stabilized now. I mean, the founder kind of released a plan on how he hopes to change everything. So they're gonna
Well,
do. a hard fork, which is
They're trying to
interesting.
pull an eat classic, basically what
Yeah,
happened in
yeah,
2016.
yeah.
Is
So
that
it's
gonna
really
work? Uh,
no, it's not. I mean, it's essentially not. It's gonna give a little bit of feedback, but it's a lose at this point. I mean, like somebody shared an article that Binance was heavily involved in it as well, which
yeah, at
explains.
the scale as it is, and it's just being a stable coin, and just the reputation, personalities, venture capital around it,
Yeah,
it's a different story compared to the DAO hack that happened in 2016 with Ethereum.
yeah.
And, and you had, like, other stakes there, and even within Ethereum there were internal struggles.
So the thing is that interesting, and this comes very close to what we've called MLMs in the past concerning crypto, because the concept with uh, Terra, like I like the concept of Terra, like how they, especially in Korea with the payments, like they already included that. The problem is now, just like with XRP, I think these are two separate things. Like it's like having multiple, and that's something you see more often with blockchain projects, where like one entity is having some kind of like three coins that are being listed, and it. I'm not sure how to explain it because even with games, you have the same thing. But it does worry me to a certain degree that um, it doesn't become kind of shifting. Like we try to balance it out. We try to balance out a stable coin with another coin, and like
Yeah, so not with another coin. It's, yeah, I guess you could call it another coin, but it's like that mechanism to get liquidity in the market. So you need to incentivize people to come into the market. So that's why the other coin was introduced, and those high interest
yeah.
rates, right?
So
Uh,
that's worrying. I mean,
yeah.
that's worrisome. Like,
I think when you
like
disconnected, I mentioned, like, instead of pumping millions of dollars in marketing to attract users, they kind of artificially inflated the interest rates to subsidize that for a short term to pay out users. That's the anchor
yeah, but with
protocol.
marketing, it's a physical product. So I think from the mainstream perspective, like there's still two kind of concerns people have that I feel like okay, you to some degree have a point. Uh, One I've let go now is the ecological issue, but that I feel like the ecological issue is only an issue with Bitcoin and not with the
And
rest of the
that has been
cryptocurrencies.
like
It
debunked.
has been debunked. It has been debunked, but you can't really explain it to mainstream people in who are mainstream yet. Like
Yeah.
they don't fully understand it. But that's even something more with Bitcoin and not as much with the other altcoins. Like it's Bitcoin does use a lot of energy, but the altcoins don't like on that level. Like
Yeah,
aside from
because
the
the
mining,
principle is
it's
different.
different.
So
So
the
it
the
kind of
UST is
yeah
literally just a representation of a dollar. Like, it's
yeah
a
it's
middle, how do you call it? Use I can't say middleman, but middle asset, basically,
yeah.
to interact
So
with the
so
rest.
that takes and then the second thing is what we just talked about. It's like it's a it's more kind of like a belief system. I mean, it is the world we live in now. That's something if you believe in something, you trust something, you're willing to invest in it. Whereas
So
it and that's the utility part. That's the part where
I,
I
I, I
like
think
NFTs.
I think one of the best utilities, this Terra situation, how bad it is in itself, is to show people in a short time frame what hyperinflation is. What happened to Venezuela, what happened to Zimbabwe in a matter of days, weeks, happened in a few hours within this algorithmic system simulated to a grand scale. And what's slowly happening to the US dollar, I would say, if this continues on with, how the government, the US government, and the money supply is being handled right now.
But what I find really interesting is that it hasn't disappeared yet. Like usually with this kind of projects, and when this something this size happens, like this kind of hyperinflation happens, it just gets completely wiped off. It's like
It
it gets
has been
delisted.
completely wiped off. Okay, it has been delisted at a lot of places. I think Binance had internal debates. I think they left it
Yeah.
on after the debate, but a lot of exchanges have delisted it, and yeah, it's getting that reboot. I'm not sure how the community is gonna react
It's
to it.
still on it's still on Kraken, it's still on Qcoin, it's still on Gate, it's still on UB, it's still on FTX. That's a lot. Gemini, Bitfinex, Bittrex, Bybit, it's still there.
Okay,
Pancake
maybe they
Swap.
stopped the trading part, then again, I think some of the exchanges also wanted to roll back some trades that happened, and then this is where it gets touchy because then you get intervention from the centralized institution, simulating the real world again. So
And the most fascinating part, the volumes are insane. We're still talking about a volume of $1 billion over the past, yeah,
yeah,
what is it?
because
24
you have the
hours?
people. Okay, like I was just YOLO, like just throw a few dollars in it if something happened as well. But you have people who don't realize what's going on, and they see like, oh, 99%, this is a chance, like get in now, and they get burned even harder. No research done.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really curious because I feel like, and this is also apart from the exchanges, like the trust and belief exchanges have in certain founders. Because if you don't trust them, you would have delisted the coin already.
Yeah.
But I think
No,
that's one of the interesting
here's
things.
my theory or thesis. At this scale, there's a lot of venture capital and traditional markets involved behind the scenes as well. And this changes the playing field. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 2015, 16, you didn't have these institutional players. You didn't have these huge venture backings yet with other stakes in mind. So these investors, like backing the company, want to salvage something. My theory, at least, if you look at the traditional financial world. So the crypto world is getting kind of merged with the traditional investment type, and that's why so many assets are correlated with each other now. And if a big moves happen, it impacts the whole market, which goes to show it isn't as mature yet. But even looking at the traditional stock market, like Netflix is significantly down. What else is down? Like the S&P is down significantly. So all the tech companies, like most of the tech companies, it feels like Netflix is having a blockbuster moment with Disney taking over.
The question I got asked today is: in the past week, what's your best performing crypto?
Best performing asset.
Yeah.
Actually, I still had a Tron bag, and for some reason, Tron
No.
maintained and pumped. So I liquidated all my Tron. So I'd say Tron,
Wow.
but I have no Tron anymore.
Okay.
So that, but for the rest, assets, like everything's down. Like uh, parallel to the Luna Terra incident, you also had the Azuki in this incident in NFT world. If you're talking about founders like Do Kwon from Terra, Doc's founder, but the Azuki incident was uh, he was an anonymous founder. People didn't know who he was, and then I think another project found out of another project team, and they kind of forced him to reveal himself. And apparently, he has started other projects that he kind of left with the money, so kind of soft rocks. And this
Oh wow.
exposed the successful Asuki project, and like
Oh
a
wow.
lot of people liquidated, and there was a lot of FUD on Twitter. So then you have it again, like anonymity. How valid is it if we're talking about big projects like this, big brands and big founders? That yeah, 1 year ago, anonymity was embraced, and now people are going away from this because of the track record that these people kind of leave. And it's a very valid point, guys. If you invest or put a stake in something, you do want to know what the track record is of these founders. So that's why
Yeah, but
VCon,
we're getting, because
VFriends.
we're getting, it's getting more mainstream, because you have the know your customer part with the exchanges, that they have to like have your identity. So that was the first step. Now people want to know who's actually the founder of the project. So we're moving kind of more towards mainstream, which is really interesting, because it shows that we're actually going to mainstream.
That is why I
So that
think
I find it
VFriends
really
is
interesting.
the perfect sweet spot between marrying the two worlds like together, like especially as Gary Vee as an operator. Running it, track record, and kind of early in the Web3, the crypto space as well, early as 2015, I think. Uh, so he has a certain understanding and network within both worlds, and I think he managed to a certain degree at least, start bridging the two and getting more adoption through education as well. So that's the other thing. And speaking of VFriends, like
The thing
VCons
that's
this week.
that yeah, the thing that's bothering me about even the projects, even Gary's projects, is that like so far it feels like, and this is my concern, is like get there in early, take your winnings and leave. And that's a concerning. I think that's just concerning thing. Like if it's solely about the money, it's really like getting early, getting in early, selling, and then leave. And that's really disappointing.
But that's it for the average person as well. Like a lot of people got life-changing gains, but a lot of people got destroyed as well. Same thing happened in 17, 18. But one thing I do gotta say, like if you follow the Discord communities, check what's happening. Yes, most of the people say, yeah, they came for the money, but most of them who are still there, they stayed for something else. And that's when you know, okay, you are doing something different. You are the project does have some other substance in it,
Yeah, but it's
but
I mean
the
it's
coming for the
there's too
money
much
part is
hype.
just too enticing for the
You know,
average
you know the
person.
hype culture, like this is the culture on steroids. Like, oh my god, something came out, I have to have the newest of the newest. It's like you don't have to, you know, you really don't have to. And because it's so much hype culture, it's like you really have to wait. Um, and that's why I like the utility part, because if you have utility, at least you get something back for it.
Yeah.
If there's no utility, it's like poof,
Well,
it's gone.
here's the thing about okay, roadmaps and utility. The thing about having NFTs on the blockchain with a utility component, as a project operator, the projects can always add utility in the future for early uh, tokens.
Yeah, it can. It can. But to answer the question I asked earlier, my best performing asset over the past week was BUSD. Just to give you like an idea how terrible the market is at the moment.
But that's back.
Binance US dollar.
That's back.
That-
Uh,
yeah, but to give you an idea how terrible the week is, that's the best performing asset, USD. Like there's nothing, like that's the only one that's in 0.5% green. The rest is like all red. And that's why I asked the question. Like, I mean, of course we can't answer the question, because like half a year ago, I was telling people like, listen, we're just getting started. This is
Yeah,
going to drop, and it's going to drop more, and it's going to
it's
drop
still
more.
gonna drop hard.
And when the Luna thing happened, and like in the middle of the Luna thing, like everything went down. Like Bitcoin jumped under 30K, Ethereum jumped under 2K, and my wife sent me out a text saying like, "How's your portfolio doing?" Because she doesn't get involved, but she does know I do have portfolio. So she was like, "How is your portfolio doing?" And I was like, "I kind of predicted this, so I put everything in NFTs." Um,
But
and use kind of the
even the
NFTs as a
NFTs are
stable
the
coin.
great hedge.
But even the NFT space
Actually, the NFTs are a
crashed.
riskier
So
move. Actually, on the contrary.
no, actually not. No, actually not. I mean, the thing with the NFTs is yes, it's riskier in the sense that it's newer, but I do feel like I made the best gamble in saying like, listen, I'm going to use my Ethereum because I bought most of my NFTs with an Ethereum price of around 2.5K.
Hmm.
And even if my portfolio on NFT goes down by 30%, it's still better outperforming Ethereum at the moment.
Well, not necessarily. Does that mean like the NFT is holding its value, or is that on the secondary market also crashing?
No, well, here's the thing that I don't, I mean, I have NFTs that are a low volume. You don't know what they're worth, but most of the NFTs that I have are kind of centralized in a way, and they have a very high. I can sell them within seconds. If
Okay,
I list them $2
there's
under the market
liquidity,
price,
there's volume.
they're just gone. You're
There's
gone.
volume.
There's massive volume. There's
Okay, no,
massive volume
in
of
that case,
NFTs that
right.
I have.
But in
Both
most
my
cases,
both my game both both my game related blockchain game related NFTs and my sports NFTs, I can sell them off
yeah.
instantly if I want to.
may-
There's a high demand for them.
But
Whereas the NFTs on
OpenSea,
on OpenSea, for instance, or my NFTs in NFT showroom, not so much.
yeah,
Like uh,
the reason
my
being
my
those are
Hive
more,
Punk, my
yeah,
Hive Punks, no, not so much.
in value terms, those are more high valued assets, and there's less volume and less supply. So which make these assets like highly illiquid. So there's no like immediate buyer, and that's kind of why I say it's more risky compared to the liquidity of regular crypto coins.
Yeah, yeah. But even if I look back to when I did most of my uh, adding credit to buy these NFTs, I'm pretty much up.
Okay, no,
Like,
that's
and that's also another thing that, yeah,
well,
yeah,
the only thing when you're feeling down is just zoom out. You just gotta look start of 2021. Are you up from the start of 2021? If yes, there's no reason
yeah,
to feel bad.
exactly.
If you're gonna compare it to the start of 2022, then you're just punching yourself in the face.
Yeah, yeah. Then you're punching yourself in the face. Definitely, definitely. And even there, I think I'm only down 30%.
Yeah, and just to put things into
Whereas,
perspective, if you are in the traditional market into tech stocks, you'd be down for some tech stocks like 60%, 40%.
yeah,
So it's
yeah. I mean, the
no
market
reason
in
to feel bad.
general, like everything is down. The US dollar is inflated, the euro is inflated. Everything kind of like
Speaking of the
it's a big
euro,
issue. And
I saw
here's
the
the
latest
interesting,
exchange rate. Like
yeah,
it's almost 1 to 1 now. What the hell happened to Europe? I didn't follow
yeah.
the developments there, but I suddenly saw that.
Well, you kind of have an indication of where that comes from and
But
what kind of spiraled into it. I mean, like you can't pinpoint it, but here's the interesting thing. They changed something in 71. Like a lot of things changed in 71. So I
Oh,
follow.
did,
I
did,
think
did
his
you
name
see
is
my post?
Andre Jack.
WTF
Yeah,
happened in 1971. I
yeah,
shared it on
yeah.
Facebook. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And,
So
Andre
Andre
Jake
Jack,
made a
who is a
video.
YouTuber, yeah, Andre Jack, who's made a video out of the website, and it's pretty interesting stuff, and it's kind of the conspiracy theorists will have a field day with this one. They will.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, just the
actually
fact
first
that it
I didn't
happened
found it
on
through
in the same
Andre.
year that the World Economic Forum. Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't find it through Andre at first. I
yeah,
actually
that
found it a few months ago through Robert Breedlove explaining it to Tom on the website.
yeah,
And 1971 is basically
yeah,
when the US dollar got off the gold standard officially. And then things happened.
yeah.
If you haven't
But
seen that
it's very
video,
interesting how the
Andre
World
Jake did
Economic
a good
Forum was
breakdown.
founded in 1971, and I mean, can you still hear me? By the way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep going.
yeah, because conspiracy theorists are gonna have a field day with it. Just the fact that it coincided with the World Economic Forum being founded, and now the World Economic Forum wants to do the Great Reset, and that's, I mean, like it's feeding the conspiracy theorists on the involvement of the World Economic Forum, kind of putting us into this mess. Well, it's not them, of course, but
There's multiple
it
factors
just
that layered
coincides.
on each other. Some may be
It
correlated,
just fits
some not.
so, yeah,
But
yeah. It fits
it's
so perfectly, and for those who want to kind of like put all the blame on them, and avoid looking at the rest, just to say like, hey man, this is what really happened. We
the,
got
the
screwed
the
over.
other one that was massive, like the price of real estate, like skyrocketed. Like back then, I'm not sure if that applies to our local real estate market as well.
Yeah,
But
definitely in Suriname as
50,
well. No,
50
in
years
Suriname as
ago,
well.
uh,
Yeah.
you needed to save like 3 years worth of annual income to be able to buy a house, and now it like multiplied to 10 years.
Oh, good luck with that. But also good luck with that in countries like Suriname and developing countries. Like, yeah, buying a car, like a brand new car, it's like,
I think you're choppy again. Yeah, I think I just lost John Luke again. Hopefully, he gets back in a second, and then we can close it off with some over unders. All right, let's see. I have a list here ready for this today's over unders, and I think I got some pretty interesting ones. Actually, made a whole sheet. Yep, and there he goes. Uh, let's see here. Uh, the downsides of bad internet. You get
I need to have this fixed by next week, because this is not definitely not working. But I think this
thought you
is
changed your
good.
network. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just saying.
I'm. Yeah,
Yeah, I think yeah. Coming back to the WT have happened to 1981, no, 1971.
71. Yeah.
Check out the video of Andre Jack. He made a pretty nice breakdown on it. And if you're interested in more deeper content, I definitely recommend checking out Robert Breedlove from he has his own show, What Is Money podcast. Very interesting as well. But having that said, I think Jean Luc, we can close it off with some over under. I actually prepared this week. I have a whole list
Oh wow.
for shows to come. So I've
Okay.
been being more proactive on doing
Okay.
preparations,
Okay.
getting back into that zone. But yeah, I'm giving you the opportunities to start this time before you say I stole yours again.
Oh wow. No, I don't have anything well prepared. So let's just, because you mentioned shows, which in which you mean like shows, in general, like our show. But I also actually have some questions about Netflix shows. So is Casa de Papel overrated or underrated?
I can't attest to it because I never watched it. So I'm gonna say just because it's so
Oh
overhyped,
wow!
I'm gonna say it's overrated.
And if you haven't watched it, it's overrated for you at least. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We had it about streaming, and this is a category, a subcategory that's happening in a lot of Twitch. Is VTubers overrated or underrated?
What you have to elaborate on that. Feed to worse.
Yeah. Okay. I'm surprised you haven't seen this, but it is actually a category on its own. So VTubers are actually the term came from virtual YouTubers. So what is the streamers actually create a character. Usually it's an anime character, and it face tracks them and everything, and they are this character on screen.
Okay, I've seen it. I didn't know
Yeah,
what it
that's
was
the
called.
term VTubers. So now that you have your context, VTubers overrated or underrated?
Yeah, I mean, from a broader picture, it's probably underrated, but from my personal opinion, it's heavily overrated. Yeah, I can't. I mean, it does work for some people. I'll give an example. It I have some people I want on the show very badly, but don't want their face shown. So for them, this would be a perfect solution.
Yeah, definitely. And that's usually why people use VTubers as well. Instead of their face, it's usually people who don't want to appear on cameras, usually girls as well. The gender demographic is leaning more to females. One that I do want to mention that's kind of like pushing the tech boundary. If you haven't heard of Code Miko before, I definitely suggest looking that one up. Like, she's experimenting with the tech, like motion capture, bodysuit, and everything, to create a 3D model in the virtual space and pushing the boundaries of what we can do with tech, and kind of on the side sharing that journey on Twitch, and so became a Twitch personality, so to speak. There we
Yeah,
go.
sorry. So could you? I'm not sure if you heard the last part, but I don't understand if somebody wants recognition for what they do, right? Why would they not show their face? Like I understand it for like people who don't want to show their face, but if
There's
you want the
different
recognition,
reasons. One, I mentioned when you cut off, but I'm gonna restate it here and also come with an example from the other side. So I think there's different reasons why people would either they don't want to show their face, not confident, or want to detach their personal to a fictional character, like performing as a fictional character. And on the other side, I think it's also a certain culture. A lot of these VTubers are very anime focused. So you also have that kind of niche culture enjoying this type of content. But on the other side, there's a VTuber called Code Miko that's actually pushing the boundaries on the tech side. And coincidentally, she sharing this on her stream and kind of is also a Twitch streamer. But she has like full motion capture, bodysuit, and everything, and
wow, okay,
generates the model in Unreal Engine. So she's like really tech oriented to push the boundaries on like real facial expressions, uh, kind of hair movement, and like high fidelity rendering on the fly with motion capture. So, and she's like, she also shows her face, but she's like this alternate character within her Twitch that pushes the boundaries on what's possible with the tech. So that could be a glimpse into like what would be possible in a future looking metaverse, basically. And yeah,
okay.
and for
Okay, that's
some other people.
really interesting. So what I want to go into an over under based on that. which is a little bit different. But since we made the switch, is cosplay overrated or underrated?
I'd say underrated, especially from a cultural standpoint.
Okay.
Um, Cultural and pop culture. Yeah, still falls under culture. Underrated from that perspective because one, it's an tremendous expression of creativity. It's a way for fans to engage with the IP, the property they care about. So, be it from the West, like Marvel, DC Comics, Spider-Man costumes, it's a way to spin off, uh, off IP events. You have these huge Comic Cons events, and people just enjoy it. It's a way to connect to that culture, but also creatively, what can you make with limited assets? Can you remake that Iron Man suit? Some people really, really, really go to the intricacies to remake an Iron Man suit with all those details, and just that just goes to show on craftsmanship. So from that perspective, I'd say it's heavily underrated. Are you still with me? Ooh.
Just got kicked out.
Okay. Did you hear the last part?
No, no, no. Yeah, I heard the last part, but we still need to do one more under overrated or
Yeah.
underrated.
Let's do one more to cap it off. So in the same train of thought on these topics, intellectual property rights, overrated or underrated?
Ooh, I think it's properly rated. I think it's overrated from the perspective that you feel like you had this original idea, so it's yours. Like a lot of people think that they came up with the idea, well, they did not. Like there was somebody else who at the same time or around the same time had the same idea. Um, but from a perspective of ownership of the idea, it's good to have intellectual property rights. So I think yeah, I'm mixed on this one because I feel like completely agree with people giving away their intellectual property because in the end it's about what you can make from it instead of
Hmm.
just saying like I own the rights to it. So from that perspective, but then from the other perspective, it is like you should accredit the person who came up with a certain version that you've used. Like it's kind of at this point, it's more about how do I put this correctly? It's more about being empathic and paying respects to the person who kind of inspired you or you took the base from, more than it
And
is like it should be a thing of statement.
yeah, and especially when it comes to creative pursuits, right? Like if it's technological innovation, yeah, then you go a step further with patenting, etc., etc. But if you're talking about creations like Disney IP, etc., like Spider-Man, Mickey Mouse, and maybe if you're going modern, like the Board API Club, and open source software to software development as well, you kind of
If
spark more creativity.
to be honest, to be completely honest, if people were better at distinguishing quality from knockoffs, we wouldn't need intellectual property rights. We just wouldn't.
But
But
what is
because so much
quality and
is
what is a
perception,
knockoff? Some
exactly.
knockoffs
So
are
it's
better than originals.
yeah, but it's just general perception, and it's like and the quality thing is arbitrary. It's kind of objective. So I
Subjective.
own, yeah, yeah, subjective. So I owned a Michael Jordan, like a Jordan brand shoe from Carmelo Anthony. I bought it in China. I knew for a fact it wasn't real. It wasn't made. It wasn't a real Jordan shoe. But that shoe lasted. When I was done with the shoe, I gave it to a friend who played hockey and was a goalkeeper in hockey, and it was really useful because it has like the high
Yeah.
frame, so it goes over the ankles. And he played hockey with it at least for 2 years. When I kind of was said and done with the shoe, that's how strong the shoe was. Even though if you would lift the lid up, you could see like all the stitches, like how it was stitched together. Like it was like really, you could see this was a market shoe, which I bought like for an insane price, which I can't buy shoes now anymore. But it was a knockoff. But then again, if you look at quality, like value, maybe not the quality, but the value that it had for me, it was like the greatest deal I could ever get.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, from that perspective, becomes tricky. But like if you buy a knockoff of something, which happens quite often in the online space as well, like part of me says also kind of like you have to know what's worth more than the other. And if something has more value for you than it has for somebody else, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of torn on this subject because there are, of course, certain situations where intellectual property rights are important,
I think
but it's
with
arbitrary.
yeah, with intellectual property rights, I think it comes that's some that's becoming more, I guess, annoying and prevalent is big corporation kind of abusing it. I would say, like, oh, you can't do that, you
Yeah,
get
but
sued.
how much can you? So I think abusing is it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, maybe too hard of a word abusing, but
No, no,
it
but
kind of
because if they buy it from you for a couple of millions of dollars, I mean, you can't really complain, can you? Like you decided to sell it off.
yeah,
Um,
that's for your creation. Yeah,
and
but
in the case of Facebook stealing literally everything from hashtags to checking in to live video to
okay, the
stories
other thing
to
is
reels,
what
all
what
those things that
falls.
I've just mentioned weren't things that were on the Facebook platform before they were already mainstream
Yeah.
somewhere else. But then again, um, most of them often don't work, but also they have the user base to make it relevant enough that enough people use it that they can decide to keep it or not. And they're different in that perspective from Google, who kind of puts things in the graveyard when they feel it hasn't progressed over time enough. So, yeah,
Okay, but then we're talking about products and features. Yes, Google killed a lot of useful products. I used to use some great products and then they killed it. It's very common with Google. But coming back to the intellectual property, I think it's a nuance on especially creative intellectual property, like idea based intellectual property. Because at the end of the day, nothing is original
okay.
and
Here's the
nothing modern
biggest
is
problem that
original.
I have from a
There's a lot
creative.
of,
No, from a creative perspective. Here's the problem that I have with it. When people take your intellectual property and they make something of it, which is worse. Like I don't. If you take my intellectual property and you make something that's better, I'm actually pretty happy. I'm pretty damn excited.
but
But
even
that's
that
kind
is
of my
subjective.
no, no. But that's my ikigai. Like I don't mind that. Like, but when you take my intellectual property and you make something with it, which is completely disgusting, where tens of different companies are like, "This is a terrible idea. Was this yours?" And I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah,
that is
when
something completely different.
it's detrimental to the public image of the brand, then yes.
Yeah, yeah, of the property. When it's like you've created something that's really good and people run with it and they make it something that's terrible because they don't implement it from the same vision that you've created for the intellectual property, that's where I get like cringy and like, I don't want it. That's
Okay.
where the point is like, okay, let's put it in stone that it's supposed to be
So,
user
so I,
generated.
I have an interesting idea what we should try to do. We touched some very interesting over unders. I think we should look for a VTuber to have on the show. We should have a cosplayer, and we should look for someone doing something with intellectual property. But what is the other one we missed? I missed one.
There's a lot. Yeah, you want like one of the actors from Casa de Papel on the show as well. Sure, let's why not? So so let's make the commitment to each other that we reach out to at least three people between now and Thursday, and have see when we can book them in. I think that would be a good commitment, and also something to close off with, which gives our viewers also something to look forward to.
All right. Yeah. I guess this is actually a fun one. Went different directions, but in all, awesome to be back. Looking forward. We actually didn't touch on Beacon, but I think we can definitely talk about it afterwards. Because
Yeah,
it
I
ends
think
on
I
Sunday.
think we should bring somebody in who is actually on Beacon
Speaking,
Confoes.
I can
Yeah,
definitely reach out to some of the community guys. Try to get one of them
yeah,
on.
yeah. We should. Yeah, we should definitely do that. With that being said, the audio version of this will be uploaded this weekend, right? And
Yep.
then we'll be back with a brand new episode next week, same place, same time. This was Social Confoes. Thank you for tuning in. Bye bye.